Wonderful. Thank you. Let me first of all thank you guys for having me here this evening. I'm blessed to not have a primary opponent. However, I do have a 32-year incumbent that I'm running against, that I'm using every opportunity I can, wherever I can, to make sure to get out the facts and who I am and what I am as well. And anytime I get to come up here, we started our evening not in this building, but at a barbecue place down there. So thank you. You know, that's the best thing about Lockhart when I come up. But guys, let me share with you, first of all, what I am not. I am not a career politician, such as my opponent. But who I am is someone who has decided and has chosen to put their hat in a race to run against something that I feel as though is overtaking our country. One of the things that I learned back in Sutherland Springs, 2 lessons I would say, but the first of which was we need to make sure that we're not complacent. And I'm afraid that's where we have become in our political ideas here in the state of Texas. We think, well, Texas can never turn blue. But folks, we should be stepping so quickly away from that idea, because it is right at our doorstep. One of the things that I thought about when I look at the blue wave that swept the rest of the country, I thought about how that wave is seeping right here into Texas. One of the things that really grabbed my attention was after the shootings in El Paso and then Midland and Odessa, when the man with the loudest voice, rather than trying to bring in a foundation of healing, stepped up and started using it for his own electoral process. And I thought, why is he using the people? The people have become a cog in his machine just to try to get himself reelected. And folks, I'm one of the very first signers of the Ted Cruz's pledge to put together a term limit package. I think that there needs to be term limits, because even if you get a good person into that position, they may start thinking, well, the people need me. And when I start thinking they need me rather than me needing them, then I'm going to start doing things for myself. And that's what I see happening. And we need to get it back to we, the people. And to get the complacency out of there, we need to realize that blue wave, what is that blue wave? When you look at it, when you look at what's happening, it's all these decisions and all these laws being passed on emotions. We have a shooting, or we have this, and people rush out and make all these emotional decisions. Folks, when I was raising all my children, when they threw an emotional decision, we called that pitching a fit. And when they pitched a fit, you didn't give in to the fit until they were rational and you could have an intelligent conversation about what we do or what we should not do. Folks, what I'm believing today is that we need to do everything we can to keep Texas as the adult in the room. So that when the rest of the country is throwing their little fit, one day they're going to look around and say, how can Texas be a standalone state but have the 10th largest economy in the world? How come Texas has that such strong family values? How does Texas have that personal responsibility where they feel as though they get what they earn and they earn what they get? Why is Texas doing so well? Well, let me share with you, because we chose to act like an adult and bring critical thinking skills back to the table rather than passing any willy-nilly law. And guys, just because somebody's a Democrat doesn't mean they're in that boat. We need to remember the party has become, that Democratic Party has become the antithesis to everything that is good. And that there's a lot of people that just does not realize that yet. It's kind of like the joke you hear, the young boys giving away kittens on the corner in a box that says, free kittens, and they're Democrats. And the man sees that and he laughs, but he goes on about his way. All week the little boy's out there. Well, next week he looks and the boy says, free kittens, Republicans. And he has to find out, he walks over and asks the young man, son, last week they were Democrats. Why are your kittens Republicans now? He said, well, that's easy, mister. Last week their eyes were closed. This week their eyes are open. What we need to do, folks, is open the eyes of the people around us and let them see, because most of the folks, even my district runs down on the border, and people say, oh, that's just so solid blue Democrat. Folks, those people still have family values. We have a unique way of life in Texas. We have a way of life that we have, and some people call it arrogance, I call it a way of life, but we believe in picking ourselves up and doing and working and being something. Those are people down there and here as well do the same. They believe in family values. They believe in integrity. They believe in hard work. They believe in the sanctity of life. They have all these beliefs. They just need to be shown, their eyes need to be open to see that that party does not stand for those things any longer. And it's for us to get out there and to get people to vote and do such. Now, the other lesson that I learned is not only the complacency, but that we also have to understand to get out there and move and do something. We can't just sit on our laurels and choose divisiveness and hate. We got to give something for people to believe in. I believe that it's a matter of locking arms with the people. It's not about me and my elected. It's about what can I do for we the people. We the people should be speaking to government, not government lording over the people. And we need to get people back in office that understand that. And I believe that's exactly what I've shown throughout my church life in the last 20 years, throughout my campaign and everywhere else I go. I listen, and what is best coming from you. And let's defer back and let's talk about it and pass those rules. Thank you, Frank Pomeroy, 21st Synod District.
Mr. Pomeroy, how do you feel about school choice and how would you pay for it?
Okay, she touched on one of my hot button issues here that hopefully y'all won't throw things at me too terribly much. The way I feel about school choice, I believe that the choice, I know that we have ISDs and they are what most people have to facilitate in right now. But I believe that the people who know their children the best are their parents. And I believe that the decision of where to send your children should be placed in the hands of the parents, especially if they're going to an ISD that is only teaching to a test. What happens if you only teach to a test, you teach a child to regurgitate what they've been given, and then they go to college without any critical thinking skills, and when they get there, they get indoctrinated with this progressive socialism because they don't know how to think for themselves, and then they go out and proselytize back to that progressive socialism, all because we chose not to send our children to get the best education. So I know I'm out of time, but real quickly, I believe that parents should have the ability to take vouchers and choose where their kids go regardless of their income level. We need to make it available to all levels of income. I need about 5 more minutes.
I'll take it off the closing time. So what is your opinion of the red flag law?
I think that any law that takes away due process in any area is wrong. There has to be due process. We have to be able to move in such a way that we know that we have law. The red flag law circumvents that. There is no red flag law that has been presented that I have seen that I feel as though would stand up to the test of due process. Now, I do believe that if you've broken the law, if you are a felon or something of that nature, you, by your own choice, have decided to relinquish those rights. But as far as a red flag law, whether it's a committee appointed, who appoints the committee, whether it's your neighbor, your sister, your mom, whomever, who says that they should have right over due process in your life? So I do not believe in any red flag law.
How would you resolve the problem of the elderly on a fixed income being taxed out of their homes?
Okay. One of the bills that I actually have already been working on is to put forth that at the age of 65, don't think that anyone over the age of 65 should not have to pay that tax any longer. They've paid taxes their entire life. It's time to step away from that, in my opinion. Now, I understand we need taxes for the wheels of government to work, but I say let those who are still working be able to pay those taxes. And then also, too, I think, I'm not in there. I was hoping you might ask me the same question you asked others about what committees you want to be on. One of which I wanted to be was on that finance committee, budgetary committee, because I think that if you got somebody in there that knew how to work with budgets, you could work the budgets around and get rid of a lot of the waste that's I would venture to say, every department. Or maybe you just wouldn't need that from the elderly people anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. You have time for your closing statement now.
Oh,
and I'm going to
okay.
cut 3 minutes off of it. No, go ahead. You have 5 minutes for that.
In closing, guys, let me just touch real quickly and briefly on a few of my topics that I like to make sure we mention. We need to understand here we see happening in the rest of the country, what we've watched in this impeachment debacle and leading up to it, and thereafter, actually, with the State of the Union address. When you choose hate and divisiveness and vengeance, you're going to continue to walk down a pathway of hate, divisiveness, and vengeance. That's not what this country needs to grow. That's not what anybody needs to grow. What we need is a country that has gotten back to its roots of morality and integrity. We need to focus back on what it means to be a nation, what it means to be a nation of integrity, of moral conviction, of personal responsibility. And to do that, we need to go back to what made us great, such as people come to me all the time, well, you had this massive shooting in your church. You must be against the Second Amendment. I won't even repeat some of the things that I was just told just this week. And I presented them, the inanimate object was not the cause of a shooting. It's the sanctity of life. If we're teaching our children that there is no sanctity of life in the womb, and our presidential candidates that are on the stage for our Democratic Party are saying there's no sanctity of life at a certain age with the euthanasia projects that's going forth. If there's no sanctity of life at the beginning, there's no sanctity of life at the end, then why in the world would they think there's any sanctity of life in between? We need to get back to teaching our children about relationships. I understand with our social media and our cell phones, the cat's out of the bag. It's hard to get interpersonal relationships any longer. But we need to teach our children. And it starts young. It's a long-range plan. You can't make a quick emotional decision here. We need to start teaching our children that the sanctity of life matters and that all lives count, and that it's important who and what each other is. That starts young. That starts interjecting in a social way very early. And along with that sanctity of life, we need to also see that our religious freedoms that promote many, I'm not saying any specific denomination or anything like that, the religious freedoms that we have that hold to the integrity, which gives us our moral conviction, are under attack. All candidates up on the blue stage up there, you remember what Beto O'Rourke said? He said that if any church decides that they cannot stand for an LGBT marriage, well then that church should take their 501c3. So be it. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar. But then he goes on even further. He says, and if they will not perform these marriages, if they will not adhere to what we say, then that church, that pastor should be thrown in jail and the church closed down. Folks, that is religious freedom under fire. And it's religious freedom that made this country great. Now, I'm not being proselytizing for any denomination. I'm saying our morals and convictions comes from our faith in something higher and better than ourselves. And that is under fire, and we need to protect our religious freedoms. Again, our education system, I think we need to attack that education system. People say, well, where are you going to get the monies to do this? Again, I'd love to be on the finance committee. Until I get in that house and see the numbers that are really there rather than what I'm told is there, I can't tell you exactly how to fund it. But I think regardless of income level, whether a person is an affluent parent right now can choose to send their children wherever they choose. But I think there needs to be a voucher system where that person that does not have that affluence can also choose where to send their children. Also, too, you look at what the ISD promoted here in Austin with the sex education class and things of that nature. It's a simple thought, a simple bill. Why not put a bill in there instead of having to have that child opt out, because there's so many parents who are working, they don't have time to look at the little paperwork, they don't even know what their kids are going through, and then if they do opt them out, that kid's othered to the side. Make it the other way around. You want your kid to go in that? You have to opt them in. Make them opt in to these classes. That way, the people that are looking at it made a conscious decision as to whose children are going to actually sit into that kind of filth. I call it filth. I don't know what about y'all, but want to sit into that kind of classes. There's so many simple things that we can do for the education of our young adults and train them up with critical thinking skills so that we can put them into our colleges. And when a professor says, well, you know, you deserve this. This is your right. You have this. You can critically think through that. No, somebody has to pay for that. Who's paying for that? Who's going to provide that? Who's going to do that? All these things are issues that need to be attacked. My opponent has shown for quite a few years now that she is following a pathway of a hard left turn. If she's following that pathway, then I know what direction by looking at her presidential candidates that she is choosing to go. You can't look at who she's choosing as president and still say that you take a moral high ground. I choose to take a moral high ground. I would appreciate your vote in November. I don't have a primary challenger, but your prayers, your vote, and that's it. 21st District. My name is Frank Pomeroy. Thank you.